Alice yearns for freedom as an enslaved woman under iron rule by the brutal owner of a rural Georgia plantation. After a violent clash, she flees through the neighboring woods and stumbles onto the unfamiliar sight of a highway. Soon discovering the year is actually 1973, rescued on the roadside by a disillusioned political activist, Alice quickly comprehends the lies that have kept her in bondage. Welcome, everybody, to the N Word for Nerd podcast. I am your host, Jason, and I'm here with the Duke of all Nightshades, the Duke of all Nerds, the real Jason himself. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the summary for Alice. This is a movie that hit limited theaters earlier this year, but it's on the video on demand. And I know we wanted to review it when it was in theaters, but we did not. So we waited till I got on demand to do this. Now, with that being said, Jason, what is your one sentence review for Alice?
Man, I hate white people.
No further explanation needed on that. My one sentence review for Alice is Alice wandered her way out of slavery and landed to a common revenge flick. Is my sentence review for that. Jason, I'll let you go ahead and get started. What did you think of Alice?
It's not even a common revenge flick because in like revenge flicks, you have like, a setup to the revenge where they make a plan and they like, do small things in order to like build up to their final revenge. Like in the Northman, where, he does a lot of crazy shit before he gets to, the final battle. This one is she's a slave, she's not a slave, and then she goes back and frees her friends at the end. And there's not really much in between. Keke Palmer, though, is awesome. She's great in this movie. But it just, for something that's like based on a true story or several true stories, I just rather read the article about what actually happened rather than watch this movie, honestly. Because like it was I wouldn't say it was cool. It was heartbreaking to see the whole everybody in fucking slave shit. And it was cool that, she gets out and she's in 1978. And that's kind of like a cool premise. But then it's like she does nothing but read books until the end. And it's like there's some cool like references to like 70s movies and cool like references to things that are happening in the 70s at that time, and there's a lot of cool stuff like that. There's a lot of cool references to like actual civil rights leaders like Fred Johnson and Malcolm X and people who are not with us today because of white supremacy and this country being the bad place. But like I wanted there just to be like more to her getting to the point where she can get revenge. And it was like it just feels like that second half of that movie, it's just like there's not really much of a story there. And then she goes and she gets revenge and it's like there's not even like an obstacle. It's barely an inconvenience for her to go back and take out her revenge on this slave master. And it works perfectly. It ends up everything working out for her. And the only thing that I really, really enjoyed in this movie is when she confronted the slave master's ex-wife, who was just living her life. It's like, oh, my ex-husband. Like, firstly, I've never been divorced, but I know people who have been divorced. And that would have been the first thing that motherfuckers would have brought up in the divorce. Oh, he keeping slaves. Can I get full custody? He got actual slaves, and I need full custody of my kid, like right now. But she don't do nothing like that. But I did like the part where Alice confronts her about it, even though she doesn't really do anything to her. She just talks at her, and that's good. That was entertaining. The last like sort of soliloquy she does to her slave master was really interesting and really really poignant for this time because she's really just kind of talking to the camera about things that are happening now rather than actually in the movie. But other than that, it's just like she's a slave. She's not a slave. I'm gonna go back and free my slaves, and that's it. It's not. There's nothing else there, and it's like I really wanted there to be like more to it. Yeah, that's my review. Go ahead, Jason.
Man, like I'm enjoying this episode because I disagree. I feel like, yes, I understand. You wanted some more depth of character and depth of sophisticated, like, plotting of revenge. I don't think the movie's about the revenge or the get back aspect. I think the movie's all about the culture, the mindset, and what it truly means to be free. And I feel like that is something that they hit on the nose very, very poignantly. So even when they're in that plantation, not knowing that it's no outside world, you get that feel of like how some are like, nah, we should try to get out of here. We should do it. And some of them are like, nah, just be cool. We good here. We live
That's
in, we do
definitely a
this. Like,
theme. Be cool.
yeah, it was like, yeah. It's like we are living here was good. We like almost like it was almost like they were gracious for being able to live as a slave. And some of them weren't like cool with that. And we have attempts that way. Well, then she gets free. She gets free, and then she gets stopped, luckily enough, by like the most historically rich
Solid.
black person, right, in the world. And he just has all this stuff laying around his house that she can learn from. Good for her, lucky for her. But then you have that whole situation about him like, nah, you don't want to go to that nice place. That nice place ain't a nice place for us. Like, but in her mind, because of the bondage she had been in, a nice place is
She
freedom
would
to
have
her
been fine.
because it's better. Yeah, better than what she had before. But he doesn't see it that way. Even Common's character being under the thumb under his brother, which they very hit and allude to, that he's a straight up Republican with the Nixon sign in the back, and he's about capitalism and like
Calling
oh,
them
they're
them
stealing.
people.
Yeah,
Them
yeah.
stealing
Like
them
they're
blackberries.
stealing. You got to go get. And it's like Common's not truly free, and his ideology of being free to her is a great luxury, but to him, it feels like being captured. The point I thought was very poignant here, like you said, she just read a bunch of books and did this. Like, it kind of even gives the message that if you educate yourself and you allow yourself to have the tools, you too can get freedom, but also free the people around you from whatever quote unquote was the bondage of here. And I remember even watching this movie. In that point, my daughters are like saying, like you said, like she's going to a library, and I'm like, knowledge is the most powerful thing you can have. Like, if you know the rules to the game and you know how to go around them, it's the biggest thing you can get. So I like that message of a situation of her understanding that the only way I can accomplish this or be better than is if I get myself filled with knowledge to be able to make this move. The most powerful moment in this whole movie is when she finds out about the Emancipation of Proclamation, and she finds out that they've all been free for forever,
For like
and it
100
just
years at that
never.
point.
Right. And then all their family just been just servitude, slaves, excuse me, domestics, as they called them. Domestics. And it's like that, yeah, granted the one in the diner was very popular, but that moment of just like that cry, and like I said, Keke Palmer does a great job. You can
Phenomenal.
feel it in her performance of the sorrow but joy of the freedom she realized that like her people have gotten. But it's almost still sorrow because she understands that they're still on that plantation, even though she understands they don't belong there anymore. But then she's still happy that like they don't have to do what they were doing before. And I thought it was also a great moment too when she's planning the revenge, and Common's like, "Well, you can do whatever you want. You don't got a birth certificate, a social security card. You could be do again, it's this whole thing. Like I said, this whole theme of this movie was about what does freedom really, truly effing mean? Common's stuck in the system. Is he no more a slave than what they are? Because he at one point thought he was fighting for something to get our people more free. And when he goes, nah, the same thing that always happens. They killed our leaders, they blah 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 blah. So like he's almost given into the
Oh.
servitude of the oppression. And like she's like, nah, bro, like if you believe you can get the fuck up out of here, you got to go, because she came from a situation where she always believed she can get freedom. I don't know. I thought it was very layered, but I thought also that's why the story was so simplistic in my mind, because I think they didn't want to get in the way of these kind of messages that I thought I was pulling from this movie. Yes, was it barely inconvenience? But you know what? At the end of the day, let's be 100%. This movie basically showed there was only one dude with a gun that was controlling all of them.
That's
So they had two guys with a gun versus one guy
we
with
win.
a gun. Who you think winning? Exactly. Like they make that very established that it was one guy with a gun. Like they make it very well known in the very first escape attempt that it was one dude with a gun. The only part of the movie that I hated, that I was like, oh, I wish they didn't do it, is when they show where the lighter came from. I hated that part.
Oh
It
yeah.
drove me insane. I
It
was like,
doesn't
I
make
don't
any
need that scene.
and it also doesn't make any sense that dude jumping there knowing that these guys are still slaves.
Well, no, I think they
Because
killed them.
yeah, and then they killed him. But he's like, because the way he like hands it to the dude, he kind of like,
Yeah.
it's a lighter. You know? Like it kind of seems like he knew that dude was like a
Okay, I didn't think
slave.
about that. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
because it confuses me. That's what it confused me because I'm like, I wouldn't have jumped in there. I would have not by myself at least.
Or like, what was the guy jumping from? What was it? Because I'm thinking he was part of some armed
well,
forces. Like they would know where he
well,
fell
I'm
at. To
assuming that they're down because from the landscape and the setting that they're in. I'm assuming they're in South Georgia, somewhere around Savannah, because
mm,
that's around Savannah. There's like a lot of rural areas right there, and there's a lot of naval bases, a lot of Air Force bases down in that area. So that probably could have been on a training jump. I don't know what he's jumping from, but yeah,
that,
I
but
would have
I'm
not.
like that. Nobody followed up. That nobody was like, "Hey, he
Yeah.
fell in this area. We should go check this out."
Well, he
Like,
also black in like the 30s or whatever it was.
that's
So they were
true.
like, "Oh, we lost one."
One less Negro. Ah, who else wants to jump? Who's next?
Now we get rid of 30 more million of them, man. We be good.
Just a slow way to get him out of here. Yes. So yeah, that's why I wasn't bothered by the little inconvenience, because again they made it known there was only one Joker with a strap. But the other part
Maybe
of it I thought was just weird is like when he was having that sermon in church, it seemed like there was a lot of white folks there. That there was a whole community of these
I think there still is a
quasi.
whole community of motherfuckers that have slaves, which is, I mean, it's the 70s, so I guess they could get away with it. But like, I don't get like obviously the kid is going to school in like normal school, and which poor Daniel. I mean, he racist as fuck too, but
100%, 100%.
but you ain't gonna be at school like, yo, my daddy keeping slaves. It's kind of because like my kid's 13. I can't keep his mouth shut. You know about shit going on in my house. Like kids
Yeah,
do
but it's the
all this.
'70s. He's with a whole bunch of white folks. They're like, ha ha ha. You mean your black nanny's a slave? Ha, 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 ha. Good one, Daniel. Good one.
I guess like for me, I guess there's a cynical part of me. I was expecting there to like be like a more systematic obstacle to her gaining her family's freedom. Like, oh, she went to the cops, and the cops were like, okay, you know, or something like that. Like, or she had to go to like find actual allies besides the one black dude she knew.
Well, and I'm with you. I thought, like, my thought was that Common was going to reach out to his Black Panther ties and be like,
Yeah,
"Hey, we got
and
a
they get a
situation
posse
here."
together, and then we get a
Right.
fucking cathartic one where everybody gets shot.
I did agree with that. I did think that as well, but they were like, "It's only one dude with a gun. You got a shotgun and a handgun. We can handle this."
Or
Light
also,
work for
like,
us.
even with the cop show, I felt like, I guess, as I said, I guess like the cynical of me, who's like, they would have showed up, seen this dude who's been bleeding, this white dude bleeding, all these black folks standing around, like, all right, all y'all need to go ahead and get in the car. Like, we take y'all down. Like, what? We were held as slaves. Like, okay, yeah, it's 1978. Get the fucking car.
Don't
Y'all out here
make me
trying to
repeat
rob.
myself.
Y'all out here trying to rob this young man here, nice young man. This nice, beautiful. They're gonna have weddings at that house eventually.
Oh, 100%. 100%. No, I mean, again, like I said, I was here for it. I thought it was more enjoyable than I expected, especially when I
Yeah.
found that I guess Keke Palmer actually executive produced this one too. So that was pretty dope for her to kind of get her name and behind those credits of that one too. I think this got me excited for Nope, though. I will say that.
Yes.
Like watching her
Yes.
perform in this got me
He
way
is.
excited for Nope. So
I mean, like, this whole entire movie is like hung upon her shoulders, with the exception of a few scenes with her husband where he's doing all the stuff. But like,
mhm.
I'm not gonna spoil what happens to him, but it's nothing. Nothing happens to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Jason, if you had to give Alice a rating, what would it be?
I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. You know,
3.5 out of
it's
5.
not it. I told Jaron and Alex to be quiet for an hour, so it didn't make me as angry as 12 Years a Slave did. But dude, reading the actual some of the actual stories that this was based on, whew.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was in Mississippi, wasn't it? If I'm correct, it was in Mississippi,
Yeah,
not Georgia. Yeah,
yeah. It was like in the 60s where this lady finally finds out that she like 1960, y'all. This lady, well, this lady's not alive anymore, but her kids are. So think about
yeah.
that.
That if it's any argument for reparations, that family
Yeah.
definitely should be like first in line. Like,
Like, where
fuck
is
that.
our check or
Right.
my mule and my 40 acres? I know y'all got it out there.
Right, right. Yeah, I would give this one. I'm gonna give it a 3, man. I enjoyed it, and it's not that long. I think it's like an hour and 40 something minutes. So it's actually,
It's
and when
pretty
I say
short.
it's not that long, it's like compared to the movies now, everything's like 2 hours and 30 minutes, an hour and 46 minutes. I'm like, oh great, whoo, over before I
everything's
started getting settled in.
everything's a 4 hour movie with like 3 sequels that are also 4 hours.
Right, right.
you have to write that you have to watch in order to get what actually happened in the beginning.
100%, 100%. So, with that all being said, again, I say Alice, I give it a thumbs up. Go check it out. If you hate it, then just say the other Jason said check it out, not me. Um,
I'll come for it. I'm right here. Y'all need. I'll take the smoke. I'm standing right. I'm sitting actually right here. I don't give a fuck.
all right, guys, remember Black Sands, The Seven Kingdoms. Get your book, Volume 1, Volume 2. On May 21st, 8 p.m., we will be going live and reviewing these books. It is part of our N Word for Nerd book club, where we highlight Black and brown authors and illustrators and talk about their books, read the books first, and then talk about them. So, guys, please get your copies, support some brothers and sisters out there. And like I said, again, next week we will do another comments episode because you guys have been still pouring in with the comments, and I love it. We love to
Love the
do it.
comments.
So, and like always, we will tag you in the comments or send a comment to you, letting you know that you are in the comments show. So if you haven't left a comment yet, this is your time. Leave the comments so we can get it on next week's show and read out loud your funny statements. And if you want to agree with us, hate us, or whatever got to be done. So we'll get that done. Other than that, as always, thank you all for listening. We will see you all next week. Peace.
Thanks for
And yes, they deserve to die. And I hope they burn in hell.
Burn in hell.